the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up.
So here's how it all started. Bill Maher kicked off a discussion in his usual style, asking the hard questions most people avoid. This time, his focus was on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her ongoing push for a far-left political agenda. The truth is, more and more everyday Americans are turning away from that message. Maher posed a question everyone's been thinking. Why keep promoting an ideology that so many now view as divisive, extreme, and disconnected from real life? Most people would take a step back, reconsider their strategy, maybe even make some changes. But not AOC. She's convinced she's on the moral high ground, determined to force her vision on the country, whether people agree or not. But Maher didn't stop at criticism. What followed was sharp, precise, and felt like a complete verbal takedown. It was a dismantling of arguments, leaving no room for a political spin or quick social media excuses. And believe me, you'll want to hear every word of it, because this is where things get intense.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
This issue has become the hill Democrats are choosing to die on, the inability to define what a woman is. Just 10 years ago, this wasn't even a topic of debate. Everyone understood that a woman is someone who menstruates, can get pregnant, and give birth. That was basic biology, not politics. Then came the progressive shift. Suddenly, gender became fluid. Men could identify as women, and anyone who questioned it was labeled intolerant or hateful. But Americans didn't stay silent. They asked genuine questions, and were met with lectures, cancellations, and arrogant dismissals from elites in blue states. While the left doubled down on redefining words and ideas, much of the country quietly walked away. The result? One of the worst electoral losses the Democratic Party has faced in years. Not because voters were bigoted, but because they were tired of being told that accepting reality made them offensive. Democrats didn't just lose votes. They lost the public's trust.
And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people or people who menstruate, because somewhere there's a trans man who's pregnant, and I say good for him, and I'll be looking for his story somewhere in a future issue of Ripley's Believe It or Not.
And this is exactly what happens when politicians keep pushing people into a corner. Eventually, the people push back, and in ways no one expects. AOC and her allies strutted through deep blue states as if they were politically untouchable. They acted like no policy was too extreme, and no voter would dare question them. But that arrogance backfired. What they didn't notice was a quiet rebellion brewing beneath the surface. Longtime supporters began switching sides. Fast. Practically overnight, voters who once stood firmly behind them started voting Republican, the very group AOC had spent years attacking. This wasn't a small shift. It was a wave strong enough to shake what used to be safe Democratic territories. So now the big question is this. Is this just a temporary setback for AOC, or the start of a political earthquake that could undo everything she's built? Stick around, because Maher's next words might answer that.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my lawyer.
Now, if you've been wondering why Maher keeps saying my lawyer and their lawyer, don't get confused. He's not talking about an actual courtroom. It's political theater. What he really means is that voters expect their elected leaders to act like their representatives, their advocates, their defenders. But here's the problem. AOC and her progressive allies haven't been standing up for the people. Instead, they've been arguing against them, lecturing, posturing, and pushing policies that make voters wonder whose side they're really on. Maher broke it down like a legal case, step by step, point by point. He exposed the widening gap between what voters actually want and what these so-called representatives are delivering. The irony? AOC talks as if she's defending the underdog, but in the court of public opinion, she's starting to look like the one being judged. And when Maher delivers his closing argument, it's anything but gentle.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
And it's not just Latino voters AOC and her allies have alienated. They've also caused real damage to something far more important, our education system. And now we're seeing the results. A few years ago, backed by the Biden administration and cheered on by the far left, new rules made it harder to remove ineffective teachers. Sounds nice on paper, but in reality, it left school leaders powerless. The outcome? Students suffered. According to the nation's report card, the average math score for 13-year-olds dropped by 9 points between 2020 and 2023, the biggest decline in 50 years. Reading scores fell by 4 points. Yet many of the teachers responsible are still protected, as if they're irreplaceable. While AOC fires up rallies and Bernie Sanders repeats his same class war message, parents are left staring at their kids' falling grades. This isn't just a mistake. It's a crisis for an entire generation. Which raises a question. With results like these, does the Sanders, AOC ticket really have any hope of leading Democrats back to power? Or are they steering the party straight toward both academic and political disaster?
You're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher? Yeah, you're going to say, congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
Sometimes, when you look back at some of the Democrats' failed policies, it's almost hard not to laugh. And these weren't small slip-ups. They were full-blown disasters. Take the defund the police movement. That collapsed fast once crime began skyrocketing in major cities. Even its early supporters quietly backed away. Or the cancel rent campaign. It sounded great in college dorms, but crumbled when faced with real-world economics. And then there's the push to eliminate standardized testing, because apparently expecting accountability is now oppressive. As Maher joked, it's like Democrats are playing a game called How to Lose a Middle in 10 Easy Steps, and they're somehow winning that game by failing. The crazy part? Despite all these mistakes, they still think they deserve another shot at running the country. It's political theater at its finest. And Maher isn't letting them escape the criticism.
And Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer. A universal basic income probably sounds pretty good to a lot of people struggling without a college degree. And a number of cities have been running pilot programs in guaranteed income. But the West Hollywood program had to be suspended because it was unconstitutional. They set up a program where 25 residents were to get $1,000 for 18 months, but only a few identified as LGBT, the rest of that. Why? Because they need money more than any other people? Because no one in West Hollywood will hire a gay person?
Maher then made a powerful point that's worth repeating. If Democrats truly want to win back voters, they have to do more than post slogans online or ride around acting morally superior. They need to face their mistakes honestly. And here's the radical part. They actually need to talk to the people they've ignored, not talk at them, not guess their opinions from a Washington office, but sit down face to face and really listen to what people care about, depending on polls and think tanks, is exactly what made them lose touch in the first place. Maher isn't telling them to sell out their values. He's saying, reconnect, rebuild trust, and stop preaching only to those who already agree with you. Because the very voters Democrats need most, they've already left. The real question is, will the party wake up before it's too late?